Thank you all again, and thank you for joining us today. Well, of course, you all know we just wrapped up our first city council meeting, at least the first city council meeting as mayor of the city of Chicago. I am still very much honored and humbled to officially start the work of collaborating with my colleagues on the city council to serve our city. Like I said on Inauguration Day, the people of Chicago are counting on us to work together, to collaborate, and of course to make life better. I'm confident and optimistic about this city council makeup and the journey we'll embark on together. And I will always seek to find common ground as we go about our daily work. A few weeks ago, we launched the Unity Council Organization Plan for the City Council to ensure that all of our alderpersons from across the city are coming together and delivering real results for Chicagoans. This plan will empower the most diverse group of council chairs in the history of the city of Chicago to ensure that our government reflects the diversity of our communities and that our values are represented. Our committee chair appointments include some historic firsts, including the appointment of the first woman finance committee chair, which is Alderwoman Pat Dowell, and for the first time, the budget, rules, and finance committees are all led by Black alderpersons. We are also celebrating the first ever chairmanship of a committee by a Latina woman, and of course, a record of 7 Latinx alderpersons serving as chairs. Also, under this reorganization plan, we have strengthened the council's ability to address comprehensive solutions to public safety, and of course, to provide oversight and support to our city's first responders through the creation of a new police and fire committee in addition to the existing public safety committee. The 2 subcommittees that will be created under this plan, revenue and youth employment, will support my administration's priorities around finances for year-round youth employment. We saw newly appointed leaders in action today, including Alderman Samantha Nugent, serving as the President Pro Tem, Alderwoman Stephanie Coleman as the Assistant President Pro Tem, and of course, Alderman Walter Burnett as the first Black person to serve as Vice Mayor in the history of the city of Chicago. And of course, my dear brother and friend, Alderman Carlos Rosa, serving as the floor leader. And another important accomplishment, we introduced an ordinance to create a permanent expanded outdoor dining program in Chicago. And I'm honored to be joined by, watch this, Gia Biaggi. We're gonna call her Gia today. She's so important, so famous, she has one name, like Cher or Madonna. Commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation. Of course, Ken Meyer with the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection, whose work will be essential in making this program a success. Of course, now I would like to turn it over to Ken and local restaurant owners, Alpana. Come on now. Alpana, Singh, Eric Williams, to expand on what this ordinance does and how it benefits our small businesses. Ken?
So congratulations, Mayor. I think we owe him a round of applause for getting through his first city council meeting, and welcome to 201A. My name is Ken Meyer. I'm the commissioner for the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. I also want to thank Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa, Alderman Brandon Riley, Alderman Matt Martin, and other members of the Chicago City Council for moving forward with this key piece of legislation for the restaurant and hospitality community. I also want to thank my colleague, Gia Biaggi, Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Transportation, and her team for the continued collaboration since the inception of the original program back in May of 2020. CDOT and BACP have been working together and listening to alderpersons, restaurateurs, chambers, and of course our industry partners like the Illinois Restaurant Association to ensure that this program is beneficial for restaurants, visitors, residents, and workers in all Chicago's 77 neighborhoods. The program has become popular and impactful way to support the city's restaurant and hospitality industry by creating inviting outdoor dining for our residents and visitors. Chicago has always had outdoor dining options. In a typical year, BACP permits 1,000 sidewalk cafes. And this year, we are on track with over 907 permits issued as of today. This ordinance introduced today enhances the city's long history of outdoor dining by allowing restaurants or bars, one, to serve customers in the curb lane, two, to serve customers in full street closures for groups of 3 or more restaurants, and 3, to extend their sidewalk cafes in front of a neighboring property. Additionally, taverns, those are businesses that do not have a food license, such as breweries, will be able to have a sidewalk cafe as long as patrons can order food at the location. The program will be administered by BACP and CDOT. This collaboration is designed to make this new outdoor dining options available in a manner that is responsibly adds to the character of each neighborhood. BACP will issue sidewalk cafe permits, both standard and extended, as well as for tavern-only applicants. BACP sidewalk cafe permits will be valid from March 1st through the end of February on an annual basis, as this has been the term for many years. CDOT will issue the curb lane and street closure permits. Those permits will be valid from May 1st through October 31st on an annual basis. These outdoor dining options will allow for restaurants and hospitality establishments to make the most of the Chicago summer season. Thank you very much for your time.
Alpina, would like to give a few remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alpina Singh. Many of you probably remember me as the host of Check Please for 12 seasons, which allowed many of us to get a glimpse of the wonderful dining options we have in Chicago, particularly the strength of our neighborhoods in Chicago. But long before I hosted Check Please or owned restaurants, my parents are actually from the Fiji Islands, and they're migrated to the United States in the 70s. I grew up in California, but I'm also a daughter of people who work in restaurants. My mother was a waitress. My dad started off as a dishwasher. In fact, dishwasher, the restaurant business is literally stamped on my birth certificate. My mom actually just called me the other day on Mother's Day. She's 70 years old, still waits tables, and bragged to me that she made $700, and she's like, I still got it. And I said, yes, you do, Mom. But both of them worked in restaurants, and that work allowed them to raise 2 kids, to live the American dream, a path that allowed me to become the youngest female master sommelier, and only South Asian ever to do so. It was a path that led me to Chicago to eventually open 4 restaurants. And so I'm very grateful for what the work that the restaurant business provides. When the pandemic hit, it was so instrumental to be able to have that option, to have that outdoor dining. I don't know what we would have done without it. It allowed us to keep our people employed, knowing firsthand what it means when you have a family to support and there are no options to work. And so with this increased, expanded dining program, I know as a business owner, it allowed me to offer more shifts, to offer more opportunity to make money, which of course we all know, equals great tax dollars as well. But I also want to put my hat on. I served on the board of Choose Chicago for 8 years. I'm a proud Chicago. I've actually now lived in Chicago longer than I lived in Monterey. So I'm officially a Chicagoan now. And as a proud Chicagoan and former member of the tourism board, tourism is the largest mover of GDP in any economy. But more importantly than that, when I did Check Please, the thing that people love the most is it got them into our neighborhoods. It got them experience parts of the city with its own unique character and literally flavor. And so having this opportunity, we all know when we go to a restaurant, it's one thing to dine inside, but then to sit outside and to absorb the vibrancy and vitality of that neighborhood, and to see the residents walk and, walk their dog and be with their kids, and just to have that energy. I'm just so excited to have this expanded program, because we all know the summers in Chicago are just long enough to make us forget the winter. So I'm super excited about this program. I know what it means for my fellow restaurateurs, but more importantly, I'm excited as a Chicagoan to be able to get into our neighborhoods, to absorb that energy, and to actually see how the locals live. And I really want to thank Mayor Johnson and his administration for, this is the first press conference, and the fact that it's in support of the restaurant community means a great deal to me. So thank you, Mayor Johnson.
Eric Williams.
Hi, my name is Eric Williams. I am the chef and operator of Virtue Restaurant, Daisy's Po' Boy, Mustard Seed, Takeout Kitchen, and Top This Mac and Cheese. This ordinance is incredibly generous to my community. As a result of the ordinance, it allows us to expand the culture that we provide in Virtue and many of our concepts beyond our walls. It allows tourists and residents alike to be a part of our constant pursuit of excellence through food, through hospitality, and through culture. And so it just means so much to me to be in this position, to see our restaurant be able to expand and utilize our curbside service, be able to utilize our patios in a way that many people wouldn't be able to enjoy our restaurants had we not been able to expand our seating. So thank you so much. Thank you and congratulations to our mayor, Mayor Johnson, and thank you all for being in attendance today.
Mr. Mayor, you continue your remarks.
Again, I really do want to make sure that we lift up the fact that we are bringing the city of Chicago together. And so, Ken, thank you one more time.
There you go.
Got it. Take me out. I'm almost famous now. Eric, thank you for you all's support. And as Ken was indicating, the importance and the value of making sure that the city of Chicago and all of our assets thrive. That is the ultimate reflection of the soul of the city of Chicago. And for the record, I've been working on a vegan, dairy-free mac and cheese. So I'm hoping that once the outdoors, don't judge me. I'm just saying I'm working on that. And when the outdoors open up, I want to be able to bring mine and see if I can win in the taste off.
Understood.
Is that okay?
Game on.
Yeah, okay, right. He never said yes. He just said game on. All right. Any questions?
Yeah, well, I'll take questions starting in the corner with Craig Delmore.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. First time I get to call you that. Obviously, there was an expectation today that the council was going to consider the additional funding for migrants. In the past, we might have had, after a DNP, a meeting 2 days later. You actually scheduled it for next Wednesday. What do you hope to happen between now and then?
Well, look, as I've stated before, it's important that we recognize that the body of government, the legislative branch of the city of Chicago, has the ability to prepare, as well as obviously the executive branch. But we also want to make sure that the residents of the city of Chicago have an opportunity to actually participate as well. Look, my goal is to continue to bring the fifth floor and city council closer to the community. And so by providing at least a week's time to prepare, I hope that is signaling a new day in the city of Chicago.
Do you expect any formal meetings, or is this more a matter of just reaching out and listening back?
Well, look, we have business to get done. This is an urgent matter, and so my hope is that next Wednesday, we can deliver on our commitment to make sure that we are providing the support that's needed to address this crisis that my administration inherited. Look, I woke up April 4th with the full expectation to become the mayor of the city of Chicago, and on April 4th that happened. Now that I'm sworn in, you know, all of the challenges that predate me, you know, we have to address. And so, you know, next week, you know, the hope is that, you know, we get the people's business completed. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor. Dave Glowatz, Inside Chicago Government. So at today's meeting, a couple of the members indicated that they felt excluded from your unity plan for your committee structure. What do you think of the validity of their claims?
Well, look, you know, today was clearly a demonstration of our collective work. You know, if you're keeping score, I believe it's 41 older persons voted for it. I mean, I would consider that an A. I mean, I don't know what a brother got to do to get a high five around here. You know, but we made history today. Everybody had a chance and opportunity to weigh in on this. And it's reflected in the body of work. And we made history again, you know, with chairs that represent the Latinx community, making history with Alderwoman Pat Dow, Walter Burnett. I mean, when have you ever heard in the history of the city of Chicago that we were able to make that type of transformational position in this stance? It's a good day for the city of Chicago today. And for those who wish to continue to have their voices heard, that will continue to happen under my administration.
Fred?
Mr. Mayor, why does the vice mayor need a $400,000 budget?
Well, it's important that we recognize that every single operation, the city council, requires us to commit to investing in people. And so the work that will be done through that particular position will require us to invest in people. And so that budget reflects what I've always said, that in order to be able to deliver the services for the people of Chicago, we have to invest in people.
And some of the aldermen who delayed the migrant funding said they want to see a long-term plan from you. What is your long-term plan? This is sort of a game of whack-a-mole. It'll only carry the city through the end of June.
Well, you know, as I said before, look, this is, you know, a dynamic that I inherited. And, you know, I understand the urgency in this moment. And it's why, first of all, I made it very clear that I'm not going to allow the political stunts that are being carried out around the country to divide the city of Chicago. That families that have been here, that need support, my administration is committed to providing that support. And the families that wish to find comfort and refuge here in the city of Chicago, that we do the same. And, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, that it took such a long reaction from the previous administration. But as you know, I worked very hard, and you know, we're going to get this matter under control, and we'll put forth you know, more comprehensive approach as, you know, we continue to assess the situation, of course, that we inherited from the previous administration.
Shia?
Mr. Mayor, we're just a few days from Memorial Day weekend. Can you talk a little bit about what your plan is, what you're talking about with the superintendent for preparing for that?
Yeah, so look, I recognize the sort of the historical dynamic around holidays. Let me just make sure that I'm absolutely clear. I want the people of Chicago to enjoy the city of Chicago. This is still a beautiful place to live. And I've been in multiple conversations with our superintendent about the layered approach that we are going to provide. And not just for Memorial Day weekend, but throughout the summer. And it's a very comprehensive approach, right? Because the business community is invested in our plan. Violence prevention workers are invested in our plan. Of course, the Chicago Police Department has a role in securing you know, the residents of the city of Chicago. And so, as I've stated before, all of the stakeholders that are ultimately connected to the well-being of the city of Chicago will have all participated in our layered approach to make sure that a better, stronger, safer Chicago is realized.
Will there be overtime for officers then?
I think that might be too, that might be getting ahead of ourselves there.
Mr.
Right.
Mayor, Representative Marty Moylan tells me that he'd like to meet with you soon to talk about his Bears bill in hopes of getting you to support it and drop any objections the city might have to the team moving. Are you planning to meet with him? And are you open to the possibility of dropping opposition to it if enough money is put on the table by the team or somebody else to pay all or most of what's still owed at Soldier Field?
How did he get your number?
I called him.
Oh, okay. I mean, you made it sound like you was his chief of staff or something. I was just curious. Look, I'm happy to sit down with anyone. And, you know, I'm committed to having, you know, very thorough conversations as it relates to all of the dynamics that I have inherited. But, you know, I would have to see the details there, and give me his number, okay? I'll call him.
I'll get you his number, but are you open to the possibility, one of the things that's in his bill is a fair amount of money to be raised from ticket tax, maybe other sources of money that would go to the Park District to help them pay their social field bills. Is that a potential solution in your vote?
I have to see it. I'm glad you had a chance to read it. Sounds like you support it, Greg.
No position.
Just FYI, we have a lot of people to get through. We're running late, and Sarah Schulte is going to kill me if she doesn't get out of here. So let's try and keep it to one question, just so we can make our way around the room and hit everybody one time. Thank you.
Wait a minute, we gotta go all the way around here? Oh, geez, Greg, come on, man.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. My question is immigration. With the city housing immigrants, what about the city residents who were born and raised here, who are homeless? You have a huge homeless teen population. What are your plans to deal with that?
Yeah, look, thank you for the question. As I've said repeatedly, you know, we have to do right and support the families and the residents who have suffered in the city of Chicago for decades now. You know, in fact, along the campaign trail, I believe I'm the only one who actually put forth a comprehensive plan to address the unhoused. Look, I'm still a supporter and proponent of Bring Chicago Home ordinance and the organizing that's committed to having a revenue stream to ensure that we're supporting those families. It's going to take all of us to get it done. I mean, there are obviously individuals that, you know, have opinions around how we, you know, address the unhoused in the city of Chicago, but I'm committed to providing those support services and the full wraparound services that we require in order to make those families whole. So very much committed to what I've been saying. Bring Chicago Home provides us with a revenue stream to address this crisis.
Please say your name and your outlet prior to your answer. Thank you.
Naima Latif with On Air Daily News. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
Hello.
I'd like to find out about the restaurant proposal and those restaurants that are going to be able to have outdoor seating. Are there any limits to the number of restaurants that can apply? And what are measures in place to ensure that all neighborhoods can participate in this program?
Thank you, Ken.
It's up to that restaurateur to actually put in an application to my department for either sidewalk cafe. And the reason we have so many different options is when you look at different sidewalks and different lengths of sidewalks across our various communities, some sidewalks are a little bit narrower, which don't necessarily allow for the 6-foot clearance for accessibility. That's why we want to allow them to go into the curb if they want to. Some folks may have a wide enough sidewalk, but still also may want to go in the curb lane. But there is no restriction on the number. I think that's just a lot about the popularity of them. If consumers continue to enjoy them, I think you'll see more and more restaurateurs applying for them.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Heather Schroen, WTTW. The arrival of the asylum seekers and sort of the city's problems in trying to find a place to house them has really exacerbated tension between Chicago's Black community and Chicago's Latino community. What are you going to do to sort of address that tension? We heard it today during public comment, and we heard it a little bit here at the press conference. And how worried are you about that tension?
Well, you know, the the tension that you are feeling, that we're all feeling, has more to do with the fact that we've had for too long black residents that have had to bear the brunt of previous administrations and their austerity budgets. In fact, if you listen closely to the testimony, black residents are not mad at migrants for seeking asylum here in the city of Chicago. You know what they're upset about? It's that communities have been disinvested in. I'm going to invest in those communities.
Hi, Mayor. Alice Yin, Chicago Tribune. What is your understanding of the budget deal that was just reached in Springfield today, and especially in terms of migrant funding for Chicago? What's the final number at, if you know, and is it as much as you wanted?
Well, you have breaking news, Alice. So sounds like you, and I appreciate you breaking that news. So look, I have not seen the final proposal and deal, mostly because I've been running government here, so I'm looking forward to.
But based on your last interaction with Pritzker administration in Springfield, do you think it's?
Well, look, our requests are pretty clear. You know, we want to make sure that our school district is supported, social workers and nurses. Certainly we need, you know, support at the federal level and the state level to the best of their ability to make sure that we are providing support for those families who are seeking refuge here. But also the families who, as the gentleman articulated earlier, that the families who are here, who are you know, part of a long struggle for liberation, that those families are supported as well. So I hope the news is as good as you know, we desire it to be. How's that? Thank you, guys.
Hi, Mayor Mariah Wolfall, WBEZ. Given the contentious debate about housing migrants at Wright College that played out last night in a community meeting, are you considering putting specific security plans in place if migrants are to be housed there in the case of protests or disruption?
Look, you know, my responsibility as mayor of the city of Chicago is to make sure that every single resident or person in the city of Chicago is safe. And so, you know, we have to, of course, assess that dynamic and how it reflects our desire ultimately to make sure that no matter who you are, that you have a safe, secure place to be able to lay your head.
Hi, Mayor Johnson, Tonya Hill with the Tribe. How is your administration working with existing mutual aid and community groups that are working to address or help asylum seekers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, you know, our team has been working overtime, quite frankly, with you know, organizations and alderpersons who have been working to address this crisis head on. And this is ultimately going to be a regular practice in my administration to make sure that we're doing everything, of course, in our authority as the city of Chicago to support all the families who are here, but also working with community-based organizations and again with the local alderpersons to see to it that these institutions have the support that they need. We have already started the process of a working group. Our Deputy Chief of Staff, who will be named soon, has already begun to collaborate and work, not just with alderpersons, but the state level, the federal level, and again, other community-based organizations who recognize that the mutual aid support could be a benefit for those individuals seeking support here, whether they're families who are already here, as well as migrants and asylum seekers. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Charlie Borjanski from Channel 5. With the emphasis on the restaurant community here today and the migrant questions that are coming up, would you be supportive of a measure that would allow the migrants to expedite the process so that they could go to work in some of these restaurants, go to work in some of the hotels? There have been calls for at least giving them a chance to earn money while they are here. Is that something the city should play a role in? And would you support that kind of effort?
Well, look, I've had a direct conversation with our congressional delegation. I spoke with the Vice President of the United States, spoke with a senior advisor to President Biden about the arduous lengthy process in order for individuals who wish to contribute to our economy, that process is quite arduous, as I stated. And so the faster and the sooner individuals have an opportunity to earn a living, the faster the process will be to making sure that that they are fully secure.
Just for awareness, we have about 20 minutes left.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I'm Jim Daly with the Tribe. At the top of the city council meeting, you cracked a joke, and you cracked a few more jokes during the council meeting. Were you deliberately trying to inject levity, and is this like a sort of a fresh turn towards more collegiality in the city council in your hope?
I didn't want to make this breaking news today because my wife is not aware of this, but it is my full intentions to develop my stand-up routine and take it on the road. Thank you. But thank you for recognizing that they were jokes.
Alex Nitkin, Illinois Answers Project at the Better Government Association. You mentioned, you talked in your inaugural address last week about the need to bring in more revenue, specifically without raising property taxes, fines, or fees. Can you name either some specific proposals or a proposal that is under discussion right now? What's going to be on your front burner as far as raising revenue goes?
Well, what's clear is that our conversations are really about what our needs are. I mean, that's I think it's important to start there because, you know, there's always this sort of deliberate effort. This is my humble opinion, for naysayers to tell people what we cannot have. And this is not an indictment on anyone in this room or anyone who voted for me or didn't. So the conversations are about the needs. And so today is a clear example that there is a need for our restaurants to have the ability to expand and grow business. It's a need. And as a result of that, that's going to provide more revenue in our city to continue to support the needs. So right now, our conversations are focused on our needs.
Hey, Mayor, Quinn Myers from Block Club. Alderman Hopkins is passing around a civility pledge. Is that a measure you support to maybe rein in some of the antics we saw from the legislative body last term?
Could you repeat that question one more time?
Sure, the civility pledge that Alderman Hopkins,
Yes.
do you support that measure that's being passed around City Hall to maybe rein in some of the fighting or some of the arguments we saw in the last 4 years?
I do support civility. I'm trying to keep a straight face. I mean, look, I know these last few years have been difficult for a lot of people. You know, but what you saw though was Alderman Hopkins sending a strong signal that there already is a commitment to real civility in the city of Chicago. Now look, it doesn't mean that we're not gonna have our disagreements, but there's a way in which we actually get to disagree. And again, coming from a very large family, I know how to disagree without getting put out the house. In other words, I fully expect to be here 4 years from now and afterwards. Thank you.
Hi Mayor, Erin from the Daily Line. Today you introduced an ordinance that would increase funding for 3 city council committees, 3 existing city council committees, one of them which hadn't met for over a year. How do you plan to ensure those committees, those 3 specifically and committees in general, meet regularly and use their budgets properly?
Look, there's a lot of work to be done in this city, and I'm confident that, you know, the unity plan that we put forward, that it's a step towards getting work done. And, you know, all of us ultimately would be held accountable by the residents of the city of Chicago. Now, the more work that we have to do, of course, the more work that is going to be needed in our committees. You know, so, you know, no one is going to stand idly by and watch another 4 years pass without providing real substantive outcomes for the people of Chicago. That we're committed to doing that, and the way, you know, we ultimately make sure that it happens is that I get to lead by example. No one's going to work harder than me. Now, Alderman Nick Sposato seems to believe he can. Don't ever bet against me, though.
Just Marcy Cranes. Mayor Lightfoot signed 11 executive orders the last Friday of her term. I know your team has been reviewing those, kind of trying to come up with theories about whether you need to rescind them or you don't need to rescind them. Can you provide an update? Do you plan to rescind 1, 2, all of those executive orders?
We have not made a decision. Thank you. And there's a gentleman, I'm sorry, I thought he was just waving at me how much time I have left. Because there are some people who work for me now, I haven't even met him, so I thought he worked for me. But there's a gentleman in the back that wants to make sure that he's heard.
I have.
Have you had or? No, I'm not saying that you're next. I'm just letting people know that you're back there, that's all.
All right.
Yeah.
Let me know when it's my turn.
I'm not trying to upset no one today.
All right.
Hi, Mayor. Nice to see you. Dana Kozlov, Channel 2 News. This morning, in the lobby, there were a lot of people who were really upset that they were not given access to either the second floor or to the galley or the third floor galley. They were saying, you know, this is a mayor for the people, but yet the people, a lot of these people can't get in. There were dozens of people downstairs on the main floor who were saying, echoing the same concerns about not being able to attend the meeting. So A, were you aware of that? And B, what changes, if any, would you make for the next meeting? And to give some perspective, that is a very unusual occurrence, at least of the past several decades.
Well, I was not aware of that. Did not issue an edict to prevent people from coming in. As you may know, I've been a part of many protests in this building, right? So of course I would not prevent people from actually wanting to, not to suggest that people were coming here to protest. I know everybody was here to come and give me nice high fives and throw rose petals at me today. So I'm committed to figuring out where the breakdown happened and to make sure that the people who actually belong in this building have complete access.
Hi, Mayor. Sarah Schulte, Channel 7. As Ronnie says, I need to get out of here as soon as I can. Back to the migrant issue, and I know I've asked you this before, but do you think at this point, I know you said you inherited this from the previous administration, but you've also in the same breath say this is an urgent matter. Do you think at this point you should have some type of plan to deal with the migrant issue?
How many days has it been again, Jason? 9, 10 days?
I lost count.
Yeah. Since me, the shortest transition period in the history of the city of Chicago. Look, I appreciate the expectation. It is an urgent matter. And I'm glad that people believe in our administration that we can get stuff done in less than 40 days. I'm glad that you believe that. Because it's important that we instill confidence in people of Chicago that we can get this right. And as I articulated earlier, that we are working with individuals who are organically providing the type of mutual aid support that families need. I visited, I think, was that day 1, day 2? I visited police stations to actually see the conditions that these families are enduring. I spend time in the Park District to again to see the respite centers, which of course is not the goal. But here's what I can assure you, is that with our full assessment and the collaboration that we have with Springfield, county government, our work with the congressional delegation, whom have been left out of this process by the previous administration. So yes, I have a lot of work to do, and I'm committed to doing that work. And people of Chicago should know that their mayor is working harder than any mayor in this country.
Hi, Mayor. Tessa Weinberg, WBZ News. Will any of the $51 million in funding that you hope the City Council pass go toward dedicated rental assistance for asylum seekers to help move them into more permanent housing? And do you see that as a need?
It is a need. There has not been an absolute determination of how all of those resources will be dispersed. So we will have that for you as we begin to move forward in this debate.
Mayor Mariano Kilis with Division Chicago. Mayor, you just mentioned 7 Latino others were elected to preside committees. I counted Ramirez Rosso in zoning, Sigjo in housing, Rodriguez Sanchez in health, Vasquez in immigration, Rodriguez in workforce development, and Villegas in business development. Who's the 7th?
So there's going to be a subcommittee for youth development. Jesse Fuentes, very dynamic human being. Her story is actually remarkable, and I don't think there's a better person who could set up a type of operation for youth development than someone like Alderperson Jesse Fuentes. Look out for that Alderperson. Bad, I'm telling you. In a good way, bad. And I appreciate your commitment to the beard. Thank you. Now, if you do something else, okay, it's good.
Okay, my time has come. Have you had or do you plan to have any contact with the governor of Texas about this practice of shipping migrants to Chicago?
Wow, between you and Greg, I just wanted to talk to everybody, don't you? That's good. That's good. Look, as I said, I'll talk with anyone. You know, right now, you know, as was indicated earlier, the urgency is make sure that we're having conversations and we're doing the work right here in the city of Chicago. Look, you know, we don't control what other politicians do. We don't. What we do have some say-so over how we respond